In the last section, we put together our first route to specify the connection between the current route that a user is visiting inside the browser and the component to show on the screen. We're now going to continue by adding in two new routes, one for our dashboard and one for the survey new components. Remember, over time, we're going to replace each of these with the actual components that we want to use inside of our application. But for right now, we're just doing some initial route setup so that we kind of get this infrastructure in place for now. Okay, so before we just start throwing the routes in there, I want to remind you that at present, whenever a user goes to our root route, we want to see the landing component on the screen. And yes, we want to see the header. We'll come back to that very shortly. Then when we want to see that dashboard component on the screen, we should be at the route /surveys. And then finally, for surveys/new, we want to see the survey form, or survey new is what we actually called it. Let's just call it survey new, because that's what we actually called it inside of our index.js file. Okay, so let's set up these additional route configuration objects and just kind of see what happens. So I'm going to go back over to my app.js file, which is where we are going to locate all of our routing logic. And underneath the existing route, I'm going to add on another route definition that's going to show our dashboard component. Now, really important, I want to make sure that you are placing the next route underneath the existing one, okay? So I'm going to place a route for the path /surveys. And remember, whenever a user goes to /surveys, I want to show the component, typo component, I want to show the component dashboard, like so. Okay, so let's now test this out inside the browser. When I flip on over, I get my automatic refresh. Any second now. Okay, there it goes. And now when it refreshes, I'm going to expect to only see the landing component on the screen. And it looks like I do, because I'm still at my root route of just essentially /. That's how we interpret localhost 3000. React Router assumes that that is equivalent to just /, and it looks for a route with a path equal to just /. So now I want to test out the surveys route, so /surveys. When we go there, we should only see the dashboard component on the screen. So I'm going to flip back over. I'm going to go to localhost 3000 /dashboard, or excuse me, /surveys, my mistake. We'll go there, and then we're going to expect to see only the words dashboard on the screen. But when we do, however, you'll notice that we get both landing and dashboard. So we are looking at both components here on the screen, even though we are at the route /surveys. So this is obviously not desirable. We do not want this behavior here. If we stick with that behavior right there, that means that whenever a user goes to their dashboard, like this thing right here that shows them a list of all the different surveys they have, they will also see some marketing content on here, because we're currently also showing them the landing component. So obviously something is not quite working the way we expect. Even though we went to this route /surveys, we're still seeing both sets of components. So why is this happening? Well, it's pretty straightforward, at least from React Router's consideration or React Router's perspective. Whenever React Router decides what set of components to show on the screen, it's going to take the current URL and then try to match every single route and every single path to the current URL or the current route. So let's look at our current route. The current route is /surveys. So React Router is going to take the string /surveys. So it essentially takes /surveys and it's holding it in memory. It then looks at all the different routes that are defined inside the application. It says, hey, route number 1, does your path contain a string, or is your path a string that is contained within the route /surveys? That's the rule. It says, is your path contained in the string /surveys? So if we were to say, hey, is / contained within /surveys, the immediate answer would be yes, unequivocally. / is contained in /surveys. It is the first character in that string. / is contained within that string, and so React Router assumes that you want to show the landing component. React Router then says, hey, second route, is your path of /surveys contained in the string /surveys? And the obvious answer in that case is yes, it is also contained. So when React Router decides what set of components to show on the screen, it kind of like, you could say, greedily matches the path. It takes every different path and says, does this exist in the current URL? If it does, show the component. And that's why we are currently seeing both landing and dashboard on the screen. But it's also why when we go back to just localhost 3000, we only see the landing. Because at localhost 3000, the current route is slash, and so slash matches with path number 1, but not number 2. So how do we fix this? Obviously not quite desired behavior. We really want to make sure that this route is only showed on the screen exactly when the path is /, like exactly /. And so that word, exact, is kind of the key word here. That's the trick. We're going to pass an additional property to the route component of exact. When we pass in exact, that basically means, hey, React Router, when you're comparing paths, make sure you use exactly this path. Like the current route must be exactly / in order for you to show the landing component. So essentially we pass in exact of true, and that says, make sure that the current URL is exactly / if you're going to show landing. So let's test this out. I'll save the file. I'll flip back over to the browser. There's the refresh. Now again, we only have landing. That's to be expected. But when we go to /surveys, we now only see the dashboard component on the screen, which is definitely what we really truly expect to have happen. Okay, so that's pretty much it for very basic configuration of routes. Now the very last thing I want to tell you about is a little bit of a trick with JSX. You'll notice that we passed in a prop of true right here, which essentially says, yes, I want you to consider the path exactly and not just kind of greedily match it. Now, rather than passing in equals true like this right here, we can use a little bit of a trick with JSX. We're going to remove the equals true part and just leave exact like so. So between equals true and just the name exact right here, the two are treated equivalently or exactly the same with JSX. So if you just pass in a property name right here, just the word exact, JSX will assume you meant to say exact equals true. So if we now save this file and then let the browser refresh, we'll see that it still works the way we expect. We still only see the dashboard component when we are on the route /surveys. And so I'll do my refresh. And again, we only see dashboard on the screen with a slightly more compact JSX statement here, slightly more syntax friendly of just exact by itself. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now the last thing we have to take care of is the survey new and the header components. So let's take a quick break and address both of those in the next section. I'll see you in just a second.